Peace, 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 peace. I'm Rami Salam El, Moorish American, and I thank you for watching. Thank you for joining us. Uh, Black identity extremists. We're going to get right into it. Before I do, I want to say this. Don't believe anything I'm saying. I don't want you to just believe it just because it may sound good or sounds like I know what I'm talking about. Look it up for yourself. Do the research. Don't believe what other people are telling you about it. You got to look it up for yourself because that's the only way you're going to know. If you just believe in what other people are telling you, it's like you're guessing, basically. You know what I mean? It's an opinion. It's a belief. It's what you think, but you don't know. To know, you got to do the research, got to do the work. That being said, you can look up this document. It's called, it's titled Black Identity Extremists Likely Motivated to Target Law Enforcement Officers, dated August 3rd, 2017. It's an FBI intelligence assessment report document. It was prepared by the Counterterrorism Division of the FBI. Counterterrorism. Let's continue. The key, I got some notes here because this is important. The key incident, I noted the key incident that triggered or that radicalized African Americans was the murder of Michael Brown. They noted it as the shooting. We know it's the murder in Ferguson, Missouri, and also the decline, the officials declining to prosecute or to even really charge the officers involved in the murder. That was noted as the incident that sparked, Black identity extremists, or got people to radicalize and start influencing them to have premeditated attacks of violence against law enforcement officers and such, blah, blah, blah. Another thing that was important is that the FBI assesses that individuals, Black identity extremists, are influenced by Moorish sovereign citizen ideology. Oh, well, that's interesting. We're going to get to that. But first, I wanted to read some of the things in the fine print, because if you just read through the document, you wouldn't see these things. But when you read into the, if you read into the, it's not the index, but the footnotes. If you check the footnotes at the bottom of the page, look in the fine print, it gives you some definitions. So I want to read these real quick. Black identity, this is the FBI's definition of Black identity extremists. Individuals who seek wholly or in part through unlawful acts of force or violence in response to perceived racism and injustice in American society, and some do in furtherance of establishing a separate Black homeland or autonomous Black social institutions, communities, or governing organizations within the U.S. Individuals who seek wholly or in part through unlawful acts of violence or force to get those things accomplished. Then also, this desire for physical or psychological separation is typically based on either a religious or political belief system, which is sometimes formed around or includes a belief in racial superiority or supremacy. That Black men are God, and that, Black men, they're the ruler of all, and we're Black people are supreme. This is what it's referring to. And at the end it says, the mere advocacy of political or social positions, political activism, use of strong rhetoric, or generalized philosophic embrace of violent tactics may not constitute extremism and may be constitutionally protected. Let me read that one more time, because this sentence is important. The mere advocacy of political or social positions, political activism, use of strong rhetoric, or generalized philosophic embrace of violent tactics may not constitute extremism and may be constitutionally protected. I wanted to pause right here. I put a quote, may or may not be. So the thing that I found interesting, and you got to pay attention when you're thinking about things in law, is that it's important to see what is being said, but also what's not being said, or what you got to read between the lines. It says that the mere advocacy or general philosophic embrace of violent tactics may not constitute extremism. May not. But that also means that it may. You see? And also, and it may be constitutionally protected. But also, it may not be. You see, there's a difference between when they say maybe or shall be, or it is, or it's possible. You got to pay attention when we're talking about law, because it's specific. What they say they mean, what they mean they say. And then the other definition, boom, sovereign citizen extremists. This is another definition, FBI definition, sovereign citizen extremist. And you may think, wow, why am I reading this? I'm not a sovereign citizen. Well, that's according to you, but you gotta understand, how are they defining it? Understand how your enemy, quote unquote, enemy, opposition, opposing force, whatever. Understand how they're thinking. You gotta study in football, you gotta study your opponent's offense and defensive schemes, understand how they moving around, understand, if you can, try to understand the play calls, what you can hear, audibles and such. Anyways, going back to this, sovereign citizen extremists. Individuals who openly reject their U.S. citizenship status, believe that most forms of established government authority and institutions are illegitimate, and seek wholly or in part through unlawful acts of force or violence to further their claim to be immune from government authority. And then it goes on to say the mere advocacy or political or social positions, political activism, use of strong rhetoric, embrace may not constitute extremism and may not constitutionally be protected. Again, may or may not be. May not be, or it may. Gotta understand that. Then the last one that I want to read is more sovereign citizens. This is very interesting. It's in there as well. Definition. FBI. A loose network of mostly African Americans who believe they are sovereign entities who do not recognize the authority of the U.S. government. Let me read that one more time. More sovereign citizens are a loose network of mostly African Americans. Mostly African Americans. So, what is the rest of the network comprised of? Who are we talking about? It's more sovereign citizens. Anyways, a loose network of mostly African Americans who believe they are sovereign entities who do not recognize the authority of the U.S. government. More sovereign citizen ideology. This is where it gets important. More sovereign citizen ideology derives from the Moorish Science Temple of America, a nonviolent religious and cultural movement founded in 1913 by Noble Drew Ali, who taught his followers that they were not Negroes, but Moors, people of North African, Berber, and Arab descent. I'm going to read it one more time. Moorish sovereign citizen ideology derives from the Moorish Science Temple of America, a nonviolent religious and cultural movement founded in 1913 by Noble Drew Ali, who taught his followers that they were not Negroes but Moors, people of North African, Berber, and Arab descent. I'm going to come back to that. Let me finish reading this. Some Moorish adherents adopt sovereign citizen strategies to assert diplomatic immunity by claiming membership in fictitious Native American tribes, claiming descent from settlers who arrived in North America during the pre-Columbian era, or identifying as foreign nationals or ambassadors. We're going to come back to the Moorish thing. I just wanted to read this one last thing. That in regards to the whole report, the whole assessment, the FBI has high confidence in these assessments. Then I wanted to look up, well, what does high confidence mean? And they have it in the little appendix section at the back of the document. And it has a breakdown. It has a definition. And it says, high confidence. It does not imply the assessment is a fact or a certainty. Such judgments may be wrong. So, this FBI assessment, they have high confidence in it, but they also acknowledge that it may not be facts or certainty, and they may be wrong in their judgments. It's interesting. Before I get to the Moorish thing, I just wanted to... Oh, no. Actually, yeah. Let me read this. The conclusion of the assessment. I want to read this and highlight some things. The conclusion of the assessment is that Black identity extremists' perception of unjust treatment of African Americans and such in America will inspire premeditated attacks against law enforcement and possible indicators of Black identity extremists posing a violent threat. These possible indicators, things that they can see and predict that maybe they may be a potential terrorist, a potential threat, a violent threat, advocating for violence against police. These are indicators. Advocating for violence against police, for having violent anti-white rhetoric, attempts to acquire weapons or explosives illegally, very important, affiliations with others in both the Black sovereign extremist or sovereign citizen extremist movements. So, the indicators, if you're advocating for violence against police, a violent anti-white rhetoric, kill the crackers, fuck the police, all of that. Attempts to acquire illegal weapons or explosives, be very careful. Last but not least, affiliations with others in both the Black sovereign extremist or sovereign citizen extremist movements. Affiliation. Well, what does that mean? Affiliation. Interesting. Be very careful who you affiliate yourself with, who you say you're a part or down with or comrades with, or they're a part of your movement. If they're condoning violence, you might want to be careful, especially if it's towards law enforcement. This is real talk, man. This is not a game. You know what I mean? Like, this is not a game. It's for real. I want to note that first and foremost. I want to say also to be very careful about what you say, via text, via email, via social media platforms, via videos, music. This is not a game. There's some real things going on and some moves being made. But I also want to get back into this Moorish thing real quick. Because this is you got to pay attention. If you're paying attention, you can really peep it. Oh, actually, boom. Violence. I want to read the definition of violence. Going to be using the Black's Law Dictionary. Boom. See that there? 4th edition. Because when you're dealing with law, you need to know what words mean in law. Whoops. I want to force. I found out while I was doing this work that force and violence are synonymous in law. Violence. Unjust or unwarranted exercise of force, usually with the accompaniment of vehemence, outrage, or fury. Force, physical force, force unlawfully exercised, the abuse of force, that force which is employed against common right, against the laws, and against public liberty. Violence, quote unquote, in labor disputes is not limited to physical contact or injury, but may include picketing conducted with misleading signs, false statements, publicity, and veiled threats by words and acts. So violence in labor disputes is not just physical violence, but it says picketing conducted with misleading signs, false statements, publicity, and veiled threats by words and acts. Veiled threats. Got to be careful. Violence. We're talking about violence because it says here It identifies you as a black identity extremist if you are using, and I quote, unlawful acts of force or violence in response to perceived racism and injustice in American society. Got to be very careful how you operate. This is why Noble Drew Ali was very wise. Said, don't be using radical speech, you know what I mean, that we are supposed to be loving instead of hating. You know what I mean? Return love to the people that do you wrong. We're not supposed to be out for vengeance. We're not supposed to be out here committing violence and being aggressive. It's love over hate. You know, the principles Moors stand for is love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And that's why this whole document is very interesting, because on one hand, they're trying to associate the document, the assessment, I should say, is trying to associate Moors with people who are committing unlawful acts of violence. But then it also says that Moorish sovereign citizens derive, their ideology is derived from the Moorish Science Temple of America, which is a nonviolent movement. So if there's Moors that you're saying that are black identity extremists and they are committing unlawful acts, and you're saying that these people derive their ideology from the movement that was nonviolent, then it's very clear that the people that are being violent are not they're not representing the movement, because the movement is nonviolent. So they can't be representing the movement. It's impossible, because the movement is nonviolent. So if they're violent, they are against what the movement is for. All right? Does that make sense, or am I tripping? You let me know. I also wanted to put on the record, really clear here. No. I think that's it. Yeah, we'll leave the rest for another time. But just notice, one last thing. Just notice that in this document, it doesn't say that we're not Moors. It doesn't say that Noble Drew Ali was lying. It doesn't deny that this information is true. And this is 2017. The FBI knows about this information. So what does that mean? I don't know. You let me know. Had enough. It's time to get ready for the day. Yeah, I think I'm good. Thank you for watching. Look it up. Again, look it up. Black Identity Extremists. Google it. Do the research yourself. Don't believe what I'm saying. I will close with this. Look in any document. I made a video saying are Moors sovereign citizens a while ago, last year. But you can look in any Moorish literature, any document from Noble Drew Ali. If you can find where he identifies us as sovereign citizens, I'll pay you $100. You can find anywhere where Noble Drew Ali is saying that we are supposed to be unlawful, if we are against the Constitution or against the government, please let me know. Because it's written in our Constitution that we are supposed to be for the government and we're supposed to be better citizens. That's what the movement is about. So, you know, the idea that Moors are sovereign citizens or against following the law, you know, it's I think they call it an oxymoron. You know, it just doesn't compute. You know, we're for the law. We're for the Constitution. The United States of America. The Republic, for which it stands. One nation. Under. All right. Much love to you. Keep shining. Do the research. Know for yourself. Don't believe what people say. And know that we are not Negroes, blacks, or coloreds, or African Americans. We're Moors, Moorish Americans, and not sovereign citizens. We're just Aboriginal and Indigenous. All right, cool. Peace. Much love.